Okay guys, let's see how to install one of the popular firewalls, checkpoint. Uh, the reason I'm gonna use VirtualBox over the GNS3, I was able to install it on GNS3, but it's a really tedious and slow process. So that's why I've chosen to use VirtualBox, and I'm gonna go and I will lead you through the steps needed. Now, first of all, this is how our infrastructure will be used. We will connect using the bridge interface. We will connect the instance of gateway of checkpoint firewall. It will be having three interfaces. Here shown only two because the DMZ interface, nothing is connected to it. The LAN, the WAN, the IP addresses ranges will be different. The other thing will be another instance we will install as a security management server, and that will be the plane actually we will access from, and using an appliance which is called Smart Console, and from it afterwards we will add the gateway, so to be able to manage all of our servers there. The management itself will be led from my physical computer. Okay, so the laptop which I'm sitting, well, it's a desktop computer on which I'm sitting with. I already, as a matter of fact, I already downloaded all the needed files. So if I will send to you this. By the way, here it will be the links which I'm gonna send you into the comments. I'm gonna send this link how to download the ISO image itself. And I'll send some links also you guys to be able to work with additionally. So that's the Smart Console which I will show it to you how to download by yourself. So without further ado, let's start on the Oracle's VirtualBox. I updated the VirtualBox. I updated also anything what's related with it. As a matter of fact, the extension pack as well. Here it is. Okay, it's as a matter of fact is updated to the latest version which I'm using as well. So let's try to do the installation. I will go and I will click here to let's create something new. So I'm gonna say new machine here. The name will be, I'm gonna call it gateway. It will be in the standard VirtualBox folder installed. Now the ISO image, I'm gonna go, I already chosen it here, so this is the image itself. Okay, if you don't know how to do it, you need to add it, right? You click on the other, you navigate to wherever it is, you click on it and you add it afterwards. In my case, because I used it already, it's already here in the links. Now the type of the operating system will be Linux, and the version, we click here and we scroll all over to the bottom, and we'll choose here where it says other Linux 64-bit. Now unattended install, we don't care at the moment. Now the hardware, initially we will work with 8 GB. So I'm gonna go ahead in the scroller here and I'll click several times until I get to the point where I'm gonna see 8 GB, and that would be it. I'm gonna choose two processors. Now once I finish the installation and setup, actually I'm gonna go back to 3 GB. It will work like that. For the hard drive, I'll go and choose 16 GB just in case, and I'm not gonna pre-allocate this full thing. I'm gonna use the thing provisioning, so to be sure that it will grow while needed. And I'm gonna say finish. I will create a group, so I'm gonna say here move to a group, and I'm gonna create a new one, and I'm gonna rename this group, and I'm gonna call this group checkpoint. I could go actually a little bit further. I could right click again and create another group, and a subgroup actually, and I will call this one well, I'll do it after this. Let's rename it again. I'll do it after with the second when I install the second appliance. So once again, checkpoint. Okay, so I will start the appliance. Oh, by the way, before we start, we need to do some additional settings here. So let me just shut it down very briefly. I'll shut it down by clicking power off the machine. I'm gonna go and check because shutting it out like that, it might remove the ISO image. So I'm gonna go and check if the ISO image is here. A very important thing is to connect properly to create our gateway. So my adapter 1, I will configure it as a bridge adapter. So I will try to get, well, at a certain point I want to be able to connect to my physical network, which in my case here actually would be 172.26.22.0 to 24. That's the one, and you see here I have a DHCP server available, I have a DNS server also, and it's part of an active domain. So I'm gonna use this one. My adapter 2 will be my LAN network. Now, most of the time when you're creating LAN adapter or internal adapters, when you work with firewalls in VirtualBox, the easiest way to work is using internal adapters, and afterwards choose the name. So if I choose internal adapter here, the default one is called IntNet. I could call this LAN. I could save it, and afterwards I will have this one. When I go back to the settings and the network, I will be having this one. It's kind of a virtual switch you're creating, which everything will be connected to it. So you see it's a LAN, and if I click here, I already have it. Now I don't want to do this in that case. I want to be able to access directly from my computer to be able to access this adapter, and the only way to do this in VirtualBox is the host only adapter. Now just to show you, if I come here and right click, open network and internet settings, go Ethernet, and go to change adapter settings. Here it is, change adapter option. In the change adapter options, if I right click, that's the VirtualBox host only. If I click twice on it and go to details, see this one will be, as a matter of fact, it has already an IP address, and that's the IP address of the adapter. So that will actually allow me to access directly from a web browser and from SSH, if I'm using SSH, to access directly within this interface. The third adapter, which will be my DMZ, I need to allow that. I'm gonna choose now for this one internal network, and I'm gonna call it DMZ, right? So I'm gonna call this one DMZ. Okay, so with this I will be able to start. Now, by the way, once again, to show you, if I click file and go tools, in tools actually they move it in the newest version. In VirtualBox you might find out extension pack manager, which I showed you already, virtual media manager, which is for the hard drives, and network manager, which actually now will show me all adapters together. So the host only adapters, here they are. If I click here on the properties, you'll see at the bottom, this is the IP of the adapter, because it's a virtual one, it has an IP address, and that's .1. That's the subnet mask 24-sider, and there is a DHCP server, and the server IP address is 100, and then the first of the pool will be 101, and the last one will be 254. So basically I could use any address statically to assign any address between 192.168.56.2 and 192.168.56.99. So that's what I'm going to use for my internal interface of this gateway. So let's see how we're going to do this. Let's start it over again. Now initially we need to click on the top. We have 1 minute to go to the up with up arrow to install Gaia, because it's not installed obviously. If we choose to start from the it won't be started because there is nothing on the hard drive, and that's the initial wizard of installation through the command line first. So it's running. Once we are provided with the initial wizard, we just click OK on to confirm that we want to install it. That's the newest version of the Gaia. It's 8040 operating system. I'll click OK to confirm my keyboard. Now I'll put a password. In my labs for all the devices, I will use exactly the same password, which is very weak. But because that's a lab, in production, of course, you use very tough password, a very long one, and different for every setup. I'll say OK on that. Now it will check the interface card. Now the order I see the card is exactly the same order I configured here. Let me just remind you, machine. So I'm gonna click settings again and go to the network. So I'm just gonna move it a little bit below so you to see what is there. I'll go network, and the adapter 1 is ETH0, which is my bridge adapter or my 1. Adapter 2 is the host only adapter, and that's the most important one. That's my LAN adapter, from which I'm gonna access all the web interfaces and so on and so forth from my physical computer. And adapter 3 will be DMZ. The next movie will work with it. So this one is the most important, and we chosen this one once again because it allows me, host only adapter allows me to access any services within this interface within the virtual machine from my physical machine without any port forwarding. Okay, so I'm gonna click here on the top. I'm gonna click cancel on that. To cancel it, I'll click a little bit on the top, and I'll go one down, and I'll click enter. Now the IP address we need to change. It will be 196.56, 192.168.56, and I'm gonna choose 10 for my gateway. And the gateway, I could choose the default IP address, which is there, 1. It's fine. Now there will be a DHCP server, so I'm gonna click tab and space to check the DHCP server. If I want to uncheck it again, space will do the thing. I want a DHCP server, so anything what I'm gonna connect, and I don't want to configure statically, everything what will be connected to the LAN interface will get an IP address. So I'm gonna click tab here and I'll say OK. As a matter of fact, I don't want to have a DHCP server, and I'll tell you why. Because we have already a DHCP server there, so that's a wrong move. So I'm gonna choose again. That's fine, but I'm not gonna choose a DHCP server here, and that's the best thing to do, because otherwise the two DHCP server might kill each other, right? You have already DHCP server on your network. So just to remind you again, file, tools, and network manager, and going here to the host only network, you see we have already DHCP server available, so we don't want this to go there again. So let's proceed now. Say enter OK, and this is asking, are you sure you would like to destroy your hard drive? Yeah, I want this to be installed. Now once it's done, it will ask us to reboot, so I'll click enter to reboot. Once the system is started, actually I might log in. The credentials will be the same as we configured. So the default username is admin. I don't need to click inside, I just need to click on the top. So admin, I'll use my password. I will be logged in. Now show interfaces. Will show me all the interfaces which I have, and if I do show interface singular, and I put here ETH0, ETH1, right? I should see the configuration which I already have. Now if I try to ping this one from my physical computer, if I do ping 192.168.56.10, after the initial ARP, most probably will have yeah, let's see, yeah, here it is. After the ARP we have a reply. So what we could do is actually coming here and putting it, so we say HTTPS 192.168.56.10. I'll click enter. I will confirm that I agree to access site with a self-sustained certificate. I'll say admin again and the same password I use. And that would be the way we to finish basically the installation, the process of of configuring this server. Now what actually I won't do, I'm gonna stop with the process of this guy. I'm gonna shut down them. I'm gonna shut it hardly. So let's do this. So I'm gonna then I will come here and I will create a snapshot. So I'll click on that one. I'll say snapshot, and I'll take one snapshot, and I'm gonna say initial clean install of Gaia. And I'm gonna say okay. So I'm gonna create a snapshot, and what I'll do next, I'll basically come again here and I will right click and I will clone this machine. Now my cloning, I will create a full clone. I'm gonna change the MAC addresses. I'm not gonna use so many anyways, network cards, so I'm gonna say MAC addresses change. And this one I'm gonna call, instead of gateway, I will call this one management. That will be my management plane, and I'm gonna say finish. It will take a little bit of time to create it. Meanwhile, I'll show you once again. So now we created the gateway. We will create the management. As you see, we need only one interface, which is part of the LAN. Right, so once again the IP addresses, as you see, LAN we have 192.168.56.0. Here it is a different one. It is 172.26.22.0, but I'll show it to you after that. Okay, so it is done. Let's try to create on that one a group, and this group I'm gonna call it LAN group. Click enter. I'm gonna move it here. So I'm gonna create group in a group, as a matter of fact, and then I'm gonna remove this out of the group, and I will create another group. That would be new. I'm gonna remove it. I'm gonna rename it, and that would be my one group. And then I'm gonna move this one again in checkpoint, but above. Well, I'll try to move it above the LAN actually here. So in that case, I have two groups within the checkpoint. When I close the checkpoint, I could see both now. I have the gateway in my one and in my LAN management, and if I need to add something else, either in one in the LAN or DMZ, I could create also the DMZ as well. So I created this gateway. I'm gonna come here on the settings, and as we said, I will decrease now the you know, the RAM memory as we spoke before. So this time I'm gonna call behind, and I'll click a couple of times till I get to 3 gigabyte. Here it is. I'm gonna check if the ISO image has been removed automatically. It is. And basically now I'm done with the installation of this guy too. The only problem is the IP address is the same, but it's not really a big problem. So I'm gonna actually start here. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna choose settings. And I will decrease here also the memory, like that, and then I'm gonna go to the network, and I'm gonna stop these two networks. I don't need them, these adapters, and on this one I'm gonna change, and I'm gonna put it to the host only adapter. Here it is. I'm gonna go host only adapter. I'm gonna say OK, and I'm gonna once I start now, I will be able to change. So I'm gonna start first this one, and I'm gonna access it afterwards on the same IP address, because it's physically is the same computer. Well, not exactly. We changed the interfaces, so it might not get the IP address. So let's see. So let's see what's going on here. I'm gonna log in. I'll say show interfaces. Well, we have it ETH0. Let's see the IP addresses. So I'll repeat this command, and I'll say show interface, and I'll choose ETH0. Oops. So we come here and we say set interface. Okay. And when we click escape, actually it will. So we configure the interface by using the commands. We configure the interface by using the command set interface ETH0 IP. So we need to click here, and we need to stay state. Actually, the command is with clicking tap on set interface. The command will be set interface ETH0. As you see here, it's set then, so you need to set it. The state, actually, we need to write down. We need to say state, and we could click tab again to see there are on and off. So I'm gonna say on, and I could check now again what's going on here. I could see that the link now is up. Okay, and let me try and see if I could be able to access it. Yeah, here it is. And I'm gonna say advanced here. I'll click on that. And I'll use the same password. Username and password. Now that's a very bad idea in production. In lab though, it's kind of easy to work with. Here it is. So this is my management console. I'll go through the web interface to install it. So I will continue with the default ones. I'll say here manually, and that's the IP address, as you could see. Now the default gateway will be different. It will be 10. That will be my gateway. So this guy here. This one, this interface, which we configure 192.168.56.10 already, and I'll say next on that. I'm gonna call it this one I'm gonna call it management. And once again, this is the management plane we at the moment we configure this guy here. Primary DNS, I'll put again my gateway 168.56.10. Okay, so I'm gonna say next here. Well, this one is good. I'll say next. Now that's the important part where I need to click next, and I need to choose. I need to uncheck the security gateway. I'm gonna install the security management here. I'm gonna leave everything else like default. Say next. I'm gonna use the same administrator. Well, that's the moment in production you to configure different user and different passwords. Any IP address, but in production is very important to use this access control list tool. You might define different machines to access only one machine, or range of machines, or a network to access your instances. So I'm gonna click next. I don't want to send any data. It's a lab. I'll say finish. I will confirm that I know that now the setting. It took about 4 or 5 minutes to finish the installation. Now I'm gonna say OK, and I will be directly sent to the management console of the management server. Now I want to use the smart console, the application which is needed to to be able to access and manage all of my appliances, including the gateway itself. So I'm gonna click here where it says manage software blades using smart console. I'll click download now. It's about half a gigabyte, so it will take a little bit of time. Now I already downloaded it, so I'm gonna just cancel this one. I don't need it at the moment anymore. What I need to do actually is to install it again. I downloaded it before. Here it is. It's here, smart console. So I'm gonna click on it, and it will be installed. I'll confirm. And that's where it will be installed. I'll click that I rate I agree with the checkpoint and so once the installation is done, I'm gonna make sure that I'll click finish and the console will start. Now before I log into the console, by default the user will be able to access only to one interface. At the moment it's accessing the web interface. So I'm gonna go here and next to the admin I'll click on the sign out, so to sign out of it. And then on the console I'll put the username, we know it already. I'll put the password. If you have a DNS server and you configure it, so you might put the name here and the domain if it's part of active domain. In my case I'll put the IP address. No, there is nothing wrong with that. 5620 actually. And I'll say login. Now it will configure for me a fingerprint, which I could use afterwards if I forgot my password at a certain point. So I'm gonna create a snapshot of this fingerprint, and I will. Yeah, I wasn't able to do it. Let me do it again. So click new. and then I'm gonna choose and I'll make screenshot of this guy here. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Yeah, here it is. One, I'll say save, confirm. I'll close this one, and I will say proceed. Before I start with this, as a matter of fact, what I'll do, I will start my gateway as well. If you remember, I decreased for both of them. I decreased up to 3 GB the RAM memory. So I'm gonna start this one too. I see the system on, I'll try to log in to it as well. HTTPS 192.168.56.10. Right. I will put my credentials here, and we'll be able to access the initial wizard of this one too. So I'll say next. Well, that's what I already configured, and that's on the interface. Now I have ETH0, which is my internet, so this is the one, and I could choose an address. So let's see here. I have already, as we mentioned, I have an IP. That's the network 172.16. This is the one 172.16.20. 172.26.22.36 is my IP address. I'm gonna try and ping one IP address from this range. Let's say 200 to see if I will be able to access it. So it says it's not accessible, and I could use this one, and that would be my external IP address of my one interface. So I'm gonna put here 172.26.22.200, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. Now I'll say next. I'm gonna call this one gateway. The DNS server, if I go and check it here, I gonna find it out here. The DNS server is, as you see, 172.26.19. That's the DNS server we have. So let's do it. 172.26.1.9. That will access that will help us to access internet from within our LAN after this, but we'll see this in the next video. Say next. Yeah, that's a good setup. I'll say next here too. Security gateway, and that's K we're gonna remove now. Security management, and we'll configure this as a security gateway. We're gonna choose everything as default. I'll say next. I'll say next on that. And activation key is very important. We need to create this activation key, and it will be the same password as I used for the both before. It's not a good idea as we set in production, but for now we're gonna choose the same. So I'll say next. I don't want to send data, and I'll say finish to, and yes, to confirm. As soon as it is installed, it will ask me to reboot, so I'm gonna say OK, and you will see actually this computer will reboot, and this is the management which is already on. Right. Let's before start check if both are off, so we are log off. and here it is. So I could close now the what's new icon here, and I see my management plane here. For now I'll dismiss this message. Now if I would like to add also my gateway, right, so what I'm seeing in a moment is the management, this guy. If I would like to add the gateway, I need to do a little bit more of work. I'll click here on this sign and I'll go to new gateway. Now I remember the name. I'll choose the wizard mode and I remember the name. It was gateway, and I remember the IP address also, which is 192.168.56.10. I need to choose a gateway platform, and if you remember, this is the open server, what we see all the time there. I'll say next, and now I will be asked to one-time password, which I already created, and we set I created it as the passwords for my gateway and management servers, but and it is not good thing for production, but here in my case it's pretty easy. And with this one I will create now the trust relationship between the both. Here it is, that's what I'm seeing. These are the interfaces. Say close, and I'll say finish. Well, I'm not gonna edit this so far. I'll say finish, and both of the appliances will appear here in my dashboard. Now, as we said, we will proceed with the the further setups in the next video. Thank you.